Hi, and we are here doing the John Maxwell Leadership Gold Mastermind with David Patterson, who is in Atlanta. I am in Lynchburg. Scott is here in Richmond. TJ is here in Lynchburg, and Susan will be here in a minute. So let's go ahead and rock and roll.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I'm glad that so far so good, no technical issues on my end. I'm actually remote today with one of my other group coaching clients, so my background is going to be a little different today, and so hopefully everybody can hear me well, and we'll have a great time today. So we're going to start on lesson 10, which is don't send your ducks to Eagle School. So it's interesting because we'll start over on page 86 to get us started in terms of why some don't soar. And I'm going to be at the bottom of the page to get us started, talking about motivation is a mystery. Motivation is a mystery. Why are some people motivated and some are not? Why does one salesperson see his first prospect at 7 in the morning while the other sees his first prospect at 11 in the morning? Why would one start at 7 and the other start at 11? And one of the things that John loves to say is it's a mystery of the mind. At the top of page 87, he gives a great example of looking to identify an eagle versus a duck. And it relates to a conversation about a wealthy man. A wealthy man says to 1,000 people, I read this book and it started me on the road to wealth. And then he asked, how many people do you think actually went and got that book and started to read it, which will probably be not a whole lot. And because of that, he mentions that that is another mystery of the mind. So a lot of people say that they want to have X, Y, and Z. And then there are individuals or there's resources or opportunities to start down that path. And they make a decision to not go down it for whatever particular reason. So the first thing I wanted to kind of do is, in terms of a roll call question, is to ask, what is a duck and what is an eagle? Because I think it's really important for us to identify exactly who it is that we're discussing before we get much further into the material. So I'll start with Scott today. Scott, how do you recognize an eagle? What do you think are the characteristics or qualities of an eagle?
I'd say, generally they're very self-motivated. You can they're okay with accountability. They kind of expect accountability. They complete tasks on time and they do a good, thorough job. I think that's, how I would kind of categorize them as an eagle.
How about you, Nanette?
Well, definitely someone who is self-motivated, and someone that is not there for the paycheck. That sees the whole real purpose, not only of what their job is, but of their life. I think center traits, and not just in their business facade, professional, but also in the entirety of their life. And I mean, someone who is not comfortable with the status quo.
What about you, TJ?
And he's not able to answer.
Oh, okay.
He's muted.
He's muted. TJ, are you there by chance? Maybe not. So Scott, what about how would you categorize a duck?
Susan just joined us. So. Hey, Susan.
Hey, Susan. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Doing good. Should I ask you the first question that we just asked right now? You can just jump right in. What does an eagle look like to you?
What does an eagle look like? I just saw one recently, a bald eagle. So it looked like a huge wingspan.
Oh, that is interesting. We're talking about the difference between people. and people that are eagles, and then people that are ducks. The chapter is
lesson 10 over on page 85.
Yeah.
We're actually kind of in 86 and 87 right now.
So the whole thing is don't send your ducks to eagle school.
I am afraid I don't have this booklet.
That's okay. That's all right. We'll talk you through it. So I'll get you in when we got some chemistry. So just hang in there with us.
Okay.
Scott, you basically said that an eagle is basically someone that's a doer, someone that expects accountability, not just wanting it. Tell me your thoughts on what a duck would look like to you.
The duck just seems kind of like they're wandering, like they don't really have any plans, any goals. You know, like it's somebody who shows up at 2 minutes after they're supposed to be in their desk, and they sit there. They wonder, well, what am I supposed to do first? You know, there's no motivation. They're there to collect a paycheck, and there's no master plan. They don't seek out new tasks, new responsibilities. They don't look for ways to learn and engage and grow. They just there as opposed to becoming something.
How about you, Nanette?
If I could put a picture of my ex-husband, I would show you that's what a duck looks like. But someone who won't open the door until it's time exactly at 9 o'clock. No answering the phone until 9 o'clock. And definitely out the door by 5. You don't even see it at 5:01. Not my job person. When they say it's not my job, sorry, it's not my job. Passing the buck, not taking responsibility. So the person that would be an eagle would be someone that would take responsibility, even though it's not their responsibility.
You know, it's interesting to say that. Scott, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to tell a funny story. I had some people who worked for me or used to work for me, and every now and then I go out with them after work, and I used to call them the 501 Club. Group of people, and they would meet their friends because at 501 they were at the bar.
Yep. Absolutely. I thought it was a great story that was told about the Krispy Kreme restaurant and how the hot now sign on, and that the lady intentionally leaves the light off so that it's a situation where they don't have a wave of people that are coming in because she didn't want to be inconvenienced, versus the owner wants everybody, their mama and their mama to come in. So it really gives a good example of how an eagle thinks and how a duck thinks. Krista, hello.
Hi, sorry about the delay.
That's okay. How are you?
I'm great today. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Did you have an opportunity to take a look at the chapter on eagle and duck?
I did not.
Okay.
I'm very bad this week.
No, that's okay. That's okay. We will
shame me into it.
Not a problem. So over on page 88, actually it starts on 87. It talks about 3 reasons not to send your ducks to eagle school. And one of them talks about how it frustrates the ducks, because these are not individuals that are necessarily people that we would define as successful people. John mentions over on page 89, successful people have discovered their niche. And then successful leaders help people discover their niche. And so it's so true that when we first kind of started this conversation, we were starting the conversation from the standpoint of the hardest person to lead is yourself before you can start leading others. And so one of the things I wanted to ask in this particular piece was, and I think I'll go back to Scott with this, because Scott, you have been one that have kind of shared your journey in terms of getting to a point to where you are right now. share again with us what you consider to be your niche and what it is that you do? Not necessarily just real estate, but maybe in life as well.
Oh, well, that's kind of kind of tough. My niche. Well, it's interesting because I kind of feel like everything that I've done in my life kind of built up for me being in real estate. I was in sales for so many years. And then worked on restoring homes and software and web design and development. And just, so you had all the interacting with people, had all the technology. And then the weird thing is, the mixture of history in there. So,
Yeah.
So it just seemed, real estate really felt like my niche and really, if that's what you're referring to. So while I love, selling historic homes, I also understand, knowing the construction of how, new homes seem like a bit of an easier thing to sell, maybe a little bit, more profitable. So I sell a lot more new homes than I do historic homes.
Mm-hmm. Now, would you say though that if you put money aside for a second, which one would you prefer to sell?
Well, if money is aside, then definitely historic properties because each one is so different and so unique, and then you kind of see how they've changed over the years, and sometimes with some historic homes, they're like a puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
So as you crawl around in the attic or you get down in the basement, you start piecing the puzzle together about how the house was built and about how it was expanded. If you take a house that's 150 years old, it's probably been enlarged or been reduced or something's changed with it. And a lot of times you got to kind of dig and explore before you really get down to the bare bones of that. So yeah, I would say I prefer historic homes.
Okay. Nanette, what do you believe is your niche? And it can be real estate related and or non-real estate related.
Well, we were interesting. We were talking about this earlier, and it has been a topic recently. What my strengths are and where I belong, where I fit in. Definitely, I am not an admin. Okay.
Okay.
Not a secretary.
Okay.
So I'm definitely the person that's out in the field that's doing stuff. Real estate, since I have been 10 years old, which hasn't been that long ago, I have been putting on siding and tearing off roofs and, installing windows. So I knew from a very young age that this was what I was supposed to do. I fought it for a while, but yeah, this is definitely what I'm supposed to do. I can't even consider anything else now. So it's definitely related to that. But also, I'm a big cheerleader. Yeah. So I really get excited when someone else finally gets their life together. And so I am a big cheerleader. And so that
one of the things,
if you took that part of me away, you'd be taking a big part of me away.
Yeah. Nanette, you got some interference over there, actually, I think. So one of the things before I come to Krista and Susan is I feel like that in a lot of ways I'm a super connector. I always thrive to put people together in a way where people can get what they want, because I understand that I only have so many things that I'm strong in. And I understand I've really learned a lot about my strengths and my weaknesses and really have started to get more of an appreciation for focusing in my strengths and working in my strengths outside of my comfort zone. And so running masterminds, being with individuals that are looking to run multi-million-dollar businesses, that can be very uncomfortable. And yet there are skills that I bring to the table that really have helped these individuals get where they want to be. So in a lot of ways, I feel like being a super connector has really been a niche for me that's helped me open many doors. What about you, Susan? What do you think is one of your niches?
So the overriding thing in my life is to walk those works out that God gave me to do since the creation of the world. And mostly my passion is people. So, and I'm also, just by personality, I'm an entrepreneur. So I love to disciple people. I love to help people. And I feel like there are a lot of things that I could do, but real estate is something that I love every single aspect of. Mostly that I get to help people all day long. And that just is so gratifying for me. I can love on them. I can help them make good decisions. I can make a decent living to take care of my family. So I love people.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like real estate is just such a good fit for me.
Makes sense. Krista, what about you?
Without a doubt, real estate has become such a good fit for me. I absolutely love what I do. My background is as an educator and a counselor in higher education. And so it just kind of blends very nicely with this. It's gotten so that people, well, actually, I should say my partner actually laughs at me because she doesn't like people. She's an engineer. And she says, well, I don't want to talk to people. I really just want to have you be the PR person. So she always says, you're the PR person. You talk to them. You do this. And I just love it. I've never met a stranger. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are, if I meet you fishing or whether I meet you at a restaurant or a grocery store, it doesn't matter. You are my friend in my eyes.
Krista, let's stay on that because it's really important in relationship to building people around you, because leadership is all about leading not only followers, but other leaders. What would you say is your partner's niche? If they don't like, if she doesn't like talking to people, then what is her strength?
Analyzing data and staying behind a computer where no one will bother her. Which is great for me because I don't want her talking to my people.
Right. Can you name a time where you remember vividly that there was a situation that occurred that you knew that she was more equipped to handle that than you in your business, that you went and talked to her about?
Absolutely. As Nanette touched on, she's not the admin, she's not the administrator piece. I've seen her be able to do a lot on our software where she keeps things organized because we've worked together on some things. But at the same time, I think that my partner could easily be the one that is analyzing data for me. It's very clear that I need to know what my business is doing and how it's being done. And before I make any decisions to do something, I run it all by her and she puts it on a spreadsheet right away and shows me exactly what I need to be doing to meet whatever goal that happens to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that has taken place for sure.
One of the other of the three reasons not to send your ducks to Eagle school, it was talking about frustrating the Eagles. Nanette, has there ever been a time that you felt like that somebody was holding you back, regardless of their reasons, that made you frustrated?
Yes. Definitely. Am I still breaking up?
You're a little bit better.
Okay. I think when I was working with my family, and I worked with them for about 13 years. So there was a ceiling there for me. I was only allowed to do but so much. And, I have a lot of education and knowledge, and I will pick up quickly. And so I felt like, when I was in the music industry, working with my family, I was very limited on what I could do. So it was frustrating, and consequently, I ended up leaving.
Mm-hmm. Because you didn't want to stay in the barn, right? Like I was talking about.
You're right. I'm not. I have to. I run free.
Eagles.
You want to soar.
Eagles don't want to live in a barnyard. I underlined that on page 89. I thought that was such a vivid picture of individuals just become frustrated with being in an environment that just does not suit them. And that can be extremely frustrating when you're in a situation like that. Scott, has there ever been, I'm sorry, Nanette, go ahead.
It says here on page 88, the last sentence, the eagle was a problem child and severely disciplined for being a nonconformist. In climbing classes, he beat all the others to the top, but insisted on using his own way of getting there. And that is why I didn't fit in the family business.
It's interesting because we hear stories sometimes about people in school, right? That they were trouble kids or they caused a lot of trouble. And it was just because the fact that they just didn't feel comfortable there. They were distracted because they wanted more challenges. And because of that, they didn't really know how to handle the energy or the emotions of being frustrated. And so there was a lashing out of that. So it is totally understandable about how people can get frustrated that way. Susan, can you think of a time where you've had that experience where people were holding you back regardless of the reason that made you frustrated?
Yes, but it's also related to my prior marriage, so I'd rather not share.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. That's fine. Scott, what about you?
Oh, definitely. Completely. I a lot of times I make the joke that if I'm the smartest guy in the room, then I'm definitely in the wrong room. I really try to surround myself with people who are a lot more intelligent and know more. And I always try to take kind of a humble stance of just assuming that everyone around me is going to be smarter or better than I am. But that being said, yeah, I've worked with a couple of people that you can tell they were holding back. Their motivation wasn't there. They didn't take things nearly as seriously as they needed to. And, their goals were just, well, we talked earlier about, how ducks, a duck's goal is to get through the day, doing as little bit as possible and still get the paycheck. And when you're sitting there with a duck working with you or for you, you kind of, it's like you wonder how long is it, how painful does that have to be before you get rid of that and try and find somebody else?
Right. Right. For anyone on the call, one of the things that it talks about in the application exercises over on page 93, it asks a question in terms of who have you put in the wrong place? Has there ever been a time where you became frustrated with someone because you were attempting to get them to do something or to move somewhere in the organization and you just can't seem to get them moving forward and come to realize it's because they're more of a duck in that situation than an eagle? God, there's a lot of laughs going on.
Yeah.
Who would like to share?
I had one horrendous attempt at hiring an admin last summer.
Okay.
She was touted as being incredibly creative and talented and had formulated this whole program and put structure around it, and I desperately needed that, so I hired her. But she turned out to try to tell me what she could not do, what she would not do.
Oh,
that was
okay.
Yes. And then she castigated me because I didn't train her correctly. And then when I fired her, she badmouthed me to people, including a friend who still doesn't even like me. So that was just terrible hire. Just did a really terrible job trusting her on face value.
How did you come to meet that person?
A friend of a friend that told me what she was like and how talented she was, and I just blithely hired her instead of really going through the process.
So obviously one of the obvious things that you learned is let's make sure that we go through the process next time.
Absolutely. And yeah, and see if I can, I was telling the guys this morning, she was somebody that I was trying to help her meet her goals too. And I should have known from the very beginning when she didn't bite on that we wouldn't mesh. You know, we just were the terrible personality mix. Yeah.
So it's interesting. Let me ask you, what characteristics are you looking to hire again?
I am.
What characteristics are you looking for?
Well, now I've learned that people actually love to be admin and do, you know, like they're the C's that love the details and the paperwork and things like that. So I want to find somebody who thrives on that, which is opposite of me. And I also want somebody, though, that's got some vision and some creativity and some energy. And I guess really being a bit of an entrepreneur, too, to help me fill in the blanks where I don't have time or initiative to train or sit right beside somebody forever, because I've got to go do my job as a realtor, not stay in training for a very long time.
How important is adaptability for your assistant?
Exceedingly important, yeah. And somebody who's trying to help me instead of being a duck, really, from this definition of just her job that she defines. That's not what I need her to do, or him.
Mm-hmm. What would you expect from a communication standpoint?
High level. So I guess I'm going to have to hire somebody who also kind of speaks my language, which is, you know, kind of ADD, like salespeople often are.
You crack me up, Susan.
Hey, Krista, has there ever come to a point where you had thought about maybe making a hire?
Yes, actually, this afternoon, right after this, I'm going to a workshop that one of the people in our office is giving on how to hire an admin at 1:30.
What are you looking for? What characteristics are you looking for?
I'm definitely looking for what Susan just said. I'm looking for someone who does what I do not do well. I'm looking for someone I'm spending way too much time doing paperwork, way too much time behind the scenes, where I should be having somebody being able to set up those appointments for me and just let me go. Where the packets are ready on a listing to be in the house and signs put up, and, you know, everything that deals with the things that just take time, where I should be making the connections because of my PR ability.
Yeah. Hey, Scott, third party disinterested, listening to Susan and Krista. If you gave them one piece of advice in terms of a characteristic that they should be looking for, what would it be?
Well, I think we already talked about, you know, somebody who's kind of self-motivated, somebody who's a bit of a visionary. You know, one of the huge mistakes is, you know, you like somebody and that's why you hire them. And the reality is you like the person who's like you.
Yes.
They may not be the right person for the job. You know, if they're like you, they're gonna have the same personality, they're gonna have the same interests, and they're gonna be good at the same things that you are, which means they're gonna be bad at the paperwork.
Right.
So, you know, go through the process.
Susan and Krista, are you both pretty familiar with what your DISC is?
Yes.
Same for you, Susan?
I would say not as much. I literally, when I first took the DISC and went to a class that explained what it is, and my DISC was like straight across almost, and I stayed bald after, because I thought I was the most boring person in the entire world because I didn't have any big strengths.
Right. How long ago was that when you took that?
Probably almost 2 years. I need to take it again.
Yeah, I think so. Because at the time it could normally what I hear when people are midlining is there's either some trauma going on in their lives, or there is something that's keeping them distracted, which has them kind of all over the place. That's not in their natural flow. And so I really think it's important for you to understand who you are first.
Yeah.
So that when you start seeing those discs, when you go through the actual process, whether it be that or the KPA, it's really important for you to understand who you are so that you bring that natural balance of yin and yang on the team.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's definitely something I would definitely want you guys to do. Let's go over to page 96. For those that have the book, we'll move to keep your mind on the main thing. This has been a big conversation here in Atlanta this week. I had an opportunity to meet with a market center here, the Tucker Market Center. We're actually doing a mastermind around develop the leader within you. And that has been a really good book to start. And this is a book that came out this year. So there's a lot of fresh content that goes with that book. And in there, it talks about the 3 R's of prioritization, the 3 R's of prioritization, which is, and it's going to be on page 97 underneath finding the main thing. What gives me the greatest return? What is most rewarding? And what is required of me? What is the greatest return? What is the most rewarding? And what is required of me? So, Nan, I'm going to start with you. Right now in your life, what is the most rewarding thing that you do?
Spend time with my grandchildren.
And
what about me? Come on, Nanette.
Well, one of my most rewarding things is when Krista takes me to lunch.
Yeah. All right, grandchildren.
And I don't want to, I mean, being with family and people that I love is the best part,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the next trip that you plan to see your grandchildren is when?
Well, I go often. This year, I have it in my calendar to go to Atlanta every other month. Don't let 8 weeks go by without being in Atlanta.
Okay.
And every 6 to 8 weeks, I go to Charlottesville to spend time with my other grandchildren.
Okay.
And so that's, in there. And then we also are taking the kids up to the lake. I guess we're going to the river this year. We're going to the river in September. Mm-hmm. We're all just going to go hang out under the same roof and do that. So, and that's already paid for and taken care of and planned out. So
awesome. Scott, what gives you the greatest return in your time? What is the one thing that that you have found that gives you the greatest return?
I guess the greatest return is from actually prospecting and meeting people, and when I mean financial return. Now, if I'm talking about personal enjoyment, I think it's just building deep connections with friends and family. Spending time talking to them and getting to know them even better than what I do know them. Which it sounds weird, but sometimes when you don't see family a whole lot, you get that distance.
Yeah, absolutely. Susan, what is required of you right now? What do you feel like that's on your plate that is dominating your calendar? And it can be personally or professionally.
What is required of me that I have struggled with for a long time and I am just determined I'm going to become successful at is discipline. Time blocking, making sure I take care of my own self, and making sure that I'm prospecting every day, just all the important things, and having time with people that I love, not letting me just get blown away by work.
What do you, I want to stay there for a second as I open up the Develop the Leader Within You book. What do you feel like is one of the challenges for you from a time blocking standpoint?
I have 3 days worth of tasks to do in every single day. And that's partly because I haven't got an admin. Well, a large part.
Do you feel like that all of those things are important?
Hugely important to me, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you this question. Do you feel like that they're important and urgent?
I think that my daily disciplines that I mentioned are urgent. And yeah, I mean, a lot of those things are urgent. I guess I've really got I've got commitments to more than I should.
Yeah. Are you clear? The hire that you're planning on making, the hire that's coming in, are they helping you with some of those things, or are they helping you with other things?
The hires would be real estate things.
Okay. So there's also personal things that you want to focus on that's important as well as urgent.
Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha.
The last sentence of page 97
Yeah.
this, and I think that it has really helped me with strategy. It says the companies that sold fewer products to fewer customers and who worked with fewer suppliers than other companies in the same industry were more profitable. So it's simple, focused operations brought greater results.
Hey, so that brings a good point. Susan, would you consider yourself having a niche in your real estate business?
No, not yet. I've got a couple of things I hover around, but not necessarily.
Okay. I think that
actually, David, I have something I want to become my niche. I just haven't managed to put structure under it yet.
Okay. What's the one thing that you can do such by doing it will help get you moving forward to that?
Well, I'm not sure if the answer to that is time blocking or
is it a growth thing? Is that something that you need some training on or access to other people that have done it?
No, I think the thing that I want to be my niche is pretty unique. Okay. But not entirely. I think pieces of it I could, yeah. You're right. I think that there are definitely pieces of it that I just need training on. Yep.
Yeah. I think one of the things that is important is that have you kind of visualized it a little bit on paper or on a whiteboard to kind of get an idea of the components to get it out of your head?
Yeah, I have put it on paper, yeah.
Okay, cool. I think one of the things that you should do is kind of go back and step back on it and look at it piece by piece and say, is it a person, is it a system, or is it a tool?
Cool, thank you.
And from that perspective, then you can decide, okay, let's start with the people first, because I can have conversations with them about the other people I can talk to, or the systems that I can go learn about, or the tools that I can use to move forward in that.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Krista, what brings you the greatest reward?
Money.
and so my coach has been calling me on this. What does money do for you?
I have always been a very independent person. Okay. And with my partner being wealthy enough to take care of both of us, it's very important to me to be able to be the one that can step up and be the one that allows her to retire soon so that I can be the breadwinner. And so to me, that develops internally in me, even though I've been told multiple times, it's not about the money, it's not about the money. For me, it is, because I want to be able to stand on my own feet and give back. And one thing that Keller Williams really believes in is, the big why. Yep. And I want to be able to, give to people like, I'm so thankful that we're doing our Red Day on Friday to help the people around here that have just dealt with a tornado. To me, money allows me to do more for more people, but it also helps me feel more independent in a relationship that I don't have to feel that way about, but it's innately in me to be independent.
Yep, absolutely. And what I heard in your statement, Krista, is simplicity and focus, intentionality about the reason for you having this money and the plan of what you want to do with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I believe that so many people struggle with knowing what they want, what they really, really want. I heard Scott Fay talk, one of our coaches, this morning just talking about that people don't sit down and actually spend the time to just visualize what it is that they want and not worry about how it's going to happen or what I've got to do. Let me just draw the picture first.
Right.
And then worry about what's the first step and then the next step, so that we can focus on the main things that are necessary to get where it is that we want to be. And so as we go through this particular lesson, it talks about 5 decisions I made that helped me become more focused and productive. Number 1, I determined not to know everything. Successful leaders don't know everything, but they know people who do it. So that, to me, speaks immediately to Susan. I don't want Susan to be concerned about knowing everything. I just want her to know where it is that she wants to go, so she can start identifying people that can help her build this. You know, sometimes, you know, with modular homes, they actually build pieces of the home in different places. So it could be a situation with Susan's uniqueness that those things have to be done in different places. And I'm sure Scott can appreciate this. When we see some of these shows on HGTV where they're doing the historic homes, that there's pieces of the home that they refurbish or they're going to add to it that they actually do somewhere else and then bring into the house. So it's okay for us to work on different pieces, not knowing how the other pieces are going to fit into where it is that we want to go. Nanette, are you someone that's determined to know everything before you move, or do you move first?
It really
Nanette,
depends. It kind of depends, but
yeah, go ahead, Nanette. Go ahead.
It kind of depends. I don't want to get too hung up on the little stuff that I can't make a move, you know. Because I'm a pretty big risk taker. Okay. I figure it's, you know, if I've got enough capital, I'll go. You know, and the capital doesn't necessarily have to be money. It could be any other things, you know. So it kind of depends.
Okay. What about you, Scott? Do you have to know it all before you move?
I think the bigger the risk, the more I have to know, the more I think about it. It's generally how I do that. And of course, everyone assumes that everyone does the same thing too, but little risk or lower costs, I can jump pretty quickly. But the primary example is it might take me 2 to 3 months to buy a car. But picking out dinners only takes me like 30 seconds.
So it's kind of interesting because it kind of relates to page 99. There's a small little quote box that's there that says, for leaders, it's better to know the most important things than to know everything. And so just dinner is not something, it's just amazing how sometimes we can make something so simplistic like dinner so difficult versus here's the options, pick one, move forward.
Right.
And simple, it's interesting how such a simple decision kind of bleeds over into other ways that we make decisions versus prioritizing. This is the decision that where we need to spend a lot of time in, and this is what is something we just need to decide and move forward. Scott, I'm going to stay with you for a second. The third one was I determined to let someone represent me. Do you ever see yourself in a situation where you would feel comfortable allowing someone to represent you?
Yeah, I think anytime someone works for you or works with you, they are representing you. But like an admin, the admin becomes the face for your business, because once you get somebody under contract, the admin kind of takes over and really helps them. So it's very important that they represent you and your business in a positive light. As when you have buyer agents working for you, you never talk to the person. I mean, what a great sensation it is to sell a house and never show it, never go to it, The only thing you know is it's a number on the board, and the contract goes from start to close, and you don't do anything. I mean, that's a great sensation, a great feeling, but that means that that person, whoever it is representing you and your business. Because the John Smith salesperson, but it's still John Smith salesperson of your team or your group.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make sure that they're trained and make sure that they're representing you and your business name properly. So that's one of the reasons why hiring is so important and
It is
difficult.
Krista, can you see a scenario with this hire that they become your proxy?
In my mind, I wish, but I have control issues. So I have been in a difficult situation in a former job where I did know more and I wanted that person to listen to me. I trained them. I got them to a position where they were very good at their job. And I knew it was because of the way that I trained them. But then when it took a direction that was different than what my vision was, I became very controlling. So it's difficult for me, and that's a habit I need to break. I don't have to oversee every single thing. And I need to let people breathe and bring out their creativity. But in hiring, I think that that's the key. I need to be doing the interviewing. I need to be making sure that they can do what I want in a way that does represent me. And that's tough.
One of the things that you said was vision.
Yes, that's big for me.
Are you clear on the vision of where you want to go for the next 3 to 5 years?
Yes, I am.
Do you believe that it's important for anybody that you hire understand and buy into that vision?
Absolutely. And I have always been one who believes in there is no I in this business, it's we. And no matter how we talk about the business, it needs to be we, not me, not them. It's always we. And that was one of the issues. So if someone doesn't buy into the vision, then they are not thinking of it as I am and as I want to project the company as the entrepreneur. And so to me, it has to start with we, and I have to interview them that way to make sure they understand that.
Yeah. So page 101, it talks about I determined to stay with my strengths and not work on my weaknesses. And so I think that is a paradigm shift in society where we have been taught so much about we need to get better in things that we're not good at versus operating in our strengths and finding individuals that can come along with us that fill in the gaps. So I really believe that the key to this is knowing who you are. It talks about that on page 101. And knowing what the organization is all about so that when you're making identification of who the person is that's going to come in, you're clear on who you are and you're clear on the vision so that you can ask questions of the potential candidate based upon those things. Because if they're not going to match basically the characteristics or the skill sets that are necessary or the belief system that goes to fill in the gaps for your organization.
I agree with that. And one thing, when you were talking about our niche and what it is that we are interested in doing, one thing that I will add is people not people, but Keller Williams as a whole is stating, for me to be successful and meet the goals, I have to have this certain number of listings that are done. Listings is my weakness. So where I see myself going is if I can get the right admin, then I can see myself still being the visionary, training that person, getting listing agents, and let me still continue to do the buyer end because that's what I love.
That's interesting because keep your mind on the main thing. I think we all would agree from a real estate perspective that listing inventory is a main thing.
Yes.
So what do we do when we identify that is not our strength?
Right. And I'm having struggles with that.
Yeah. And so that's the reason why we've got to be clear on who is the right person to fill that gap. because one of the challenges might be finding that person, and then the additional challenge is, are they one that's willing to come along in the vision, or do they want to create their own?
Right.
Right? Because there's a thought process out there that they are drivers as well, and now you've got two leaders in a room that's doing this because they might have conflicting visions or the way to get there. Right. So there's a lot of thought that has to go into that before you just bring somebody in. So Susan, I'm encouraged by the fact that you understand that there's a value to going through this process and really thinking about what questions that you need to ask, because just because they look good on paper and just because they speak well, will they buy into my vision, and do they help me in my weaknesses?
One thing I wanted to add, you know, and I've never had any trouble letting somebody else do the job. Now, like, and I'll clarify that. I'll let them go do the job, knowing that they're not going to do the job the way I'm going to do it, and they're probably not going to do it as good as I do it. Okay. But, you know, otherwise, if I don't let them do it, they're never going to learn how to do it.
Right.
And so, but if they can do it 50% better than I can do it, then I can work with it. You know I can, they're teachable. And then my goal is to get them up there where they can do it about 80% better or 80% as good as I can. That way I can really let go. If it's not 80% as good as I think I can do it, it'll be all right.
Yeah.
You know, so that helps me give up my control, that it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect.
It's interesting because Krista kind of led into over on page 106. We're talking about your biggest mistake is not asking what mistakes you're making in lesson 12. And underneath recipe for successful failure, number 1 was admit your own mistakes and weaknesses. And Krista right off the bat said, listings are just not my thing. It's just not my passion. I don't do well in it. And that really helps because now I understand with clarity where it is that I've got to fill a gap, right? So Scott, here's a question for you. What mistakes are you making these days?
Oh.
I'm not sure what she's referring to. So,
you had to lean back in the chair for that one.
You asked the wrong person. I could help you with that.
I would say that I don't always follow my schedule. You know, you know the things you should be doing. You know what your schedule says, and I don't follow it exactly. And I have gotten away recently from doing my to-do list, and that I find that those really kind of help me keep focused on what needs to be done. I get a lot more accomplished when I have a to-do list. So schedule and the to-do list are two of the biggest things that I've not been doing recently.
Ooh, that sounds difficult.
So Nanette, what mistake are you making these days?
That's good. You know what my struggle has been is if I'm not working all the time, then I feel guilty.
Amen. And then you feel guilty if you are working all the time too.
Yeah, and well, I don't have time to feel guilty if I'm working all the time. And then I'll stop a minute and I'll think, damn, you didn't even call your mom today. You know?
Right.
And my mom is sick, so and I, or you didn't, you haven't seen your dad in a week, or maybe you haven't called your kids, even though the kids should be calling me. But you know, I haven't done enough. I always feel like I haven't done enough, you know, and there's just not enough me, you know. And so, like, if I go and spend some time with my mom and dad, I feel like, damn, I'm watching the clock. I'm thinking about what I could be doing, what I should be doing. And I feel guilty because I'm, you know, thinking about the money that's walking out the door. And it's a real struggle for me, you know, I have it in my calendar, go spend time with the kids, go spend time with the parents, go have fun. And then I have my work. But even if I work all the time, I still feel like I need to work more. And it's this pressure that I have. So I put the balance in my calendar, but my mind hasn't made that connection yet.
Is that self-created pressure?
Maybe. I mean, maybe. And it could be a little bit. I don't know. You know, just crazy. I got mental problems, I guess. I mean, I don't. Yeah, it's probably self-inflicted. Anxiety.
You and I've had private conversations. I know it's the financial, I don't want to say stability more so than it is. You have financial goals. There is things that you want to have in order financially, and that drives you. And I don't think that you should be apologetic about that at all. And I also believe that there is a balance or balancing that you would like to see in your life. So now it becomes a priority thing from the standpoint of not just on paper, you taking the intentional step of saying, yes, it is important for me to make money. It is more important for me to be present with my grandkids and with my family. To the point where you might have to say that out loud as you're walking on the plane. That when I get off the plane, I am present with my family. And as much as that computer is calling me, as much as that phone wants to buzz and distract me, for this window of time, I'm going to be present.
Yeah.
Right? So sometimes we have to be intentional. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it happens. I do it. I'm in that moment. I can put the phone away and not answer an email.
Yeah.
I can do that. And I'm all into the kid when I'm there, you know. But if I have a moment, just a second, where my brain shifts for a second, I think, oh my God, I should go check my emails. And that's when I'm like, you know what I mean? When you just have that fleeting second when you're not there, that fleeting second when you're not there. Yeah. And it's pretty intense, you know, like, oh my God, I got to go right now. And it's crazy. You know, there's nothing that important that I need to go do right now.
Yeah. Susan, really, you had pretty much given Nanette an amen when she said that. So obviously you can relate. Will you share a little bit about your thoughts about that, how you feel about all of that right now in terms of, I should be here, should be here, blah, blah, blah.
I would appreciate your feedback on it. So the first year I was in real estate, all my kids were launched, and I did work 5 o'clock in the morning till my eyes shut at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I just worked the first year. And then now, though, you know, I also kind of ignored my friends and my family. And just recently, my body is finally starting to rebel. I've been doing this pretty much all my life. So I'm recognizing that I actually can't keep doing that pace. I just literally can't do it. But besides that, my kids, 2 kids are home at the moment, and they actually want to hang out with me. And this is like probably the only chance I'm going to get, because they're almost, you know, they're adults basically. So I'm just trying to know how to be a good steward of my time. But on the other side of that is that I'm straight commission. I do have a lot of financial obligations and goals. And it's, it's right now it's a bubble. Like, how do you stop working how do you say this is enough to make one day and now I can put that aside and take some time to myself, because you never know when the next paycheck's coming. You never know, like, if you're not working really hard and productively, then you're not making quite as much as your goal is. With Bold, they tell you to double what you think you can't do anyway. So I mean, like, how do you put some kind of a intelligence around that?
Okay, so this is going to take me a minute, guys. So, so I need some latitude, okay? But this will be for everybody, okay? I had an opportunity last March to meet with an individual that is a certified coach with Tony Robbins, and we had an hour-long conversation about some of the things that I was struggling with in my life. And at the end of that conversation, he said, "David, I know exactly what your problem is." And I said, "What is it?" He said, "You are not in alignment with who you are. And that is really important for you to really understand who you are and bring the major components of your life into alignment." And so there's 7 words I want to give you guys, if you'll write them down, because this is going to help you with life vision, okay? And they're in any order that you want to make them. This is my order after this conversation, because one of the exercises that he gave me was order these, because this will dictate your priorities, okay? So the first word is spirituality. The second one is relationships. The third one is health. The fourth one is business. The fifth one is finances. The sixth one is environment. And the seventh one is recreation. Spirituality, relationships, health, business, finance, environment, recreation. And so the assignment he gave me was to write a vision for each one of those words. What do I want my life to look like for each one of these words? Whatever that might look like. And so it was really interesting when I started to do the exercise, and I really did it over the course of 6-7 months. I kept coming back to it. And towards the end of the year, I remember I was in church right before the new year. And I said, all I want to be is healthy. And when people first hear that, they think about physical health. And I was thinking, I want to be healthy in all of these areas. I want to be healthy spiritually, in terms of feeling like I'm connected to an energy source, that things come to me versus me having to chase it. I want it to be in a healthy, loving relationship, as well as having a group of friends that help me to be better. So like on page 110, it talks about give the people around you permission to push back. I needed individuals that I knew that was in this for the long haul with me and were willing to push back when they felt like that I wasn't moving in the direction of my own personal vision. I have lost since July 25 to 30 pounds. So you guys are seeing me in a journey getting towards where I want to be physically. From a business standpoint, I really have gotten engaged with my coaches to help me get my mind tuned to the vibration where I attract the money that I want to attract. So Krista, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, you and your partner need to read it. You guys need to get your Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. This is a book that gets you to start thinking about how to attune your mind to attract money or whatever it is that makes you feel wealthy, Susan. So my coach, Paul Martinelli, basically required us to read the chapter on persistence 14 straight days. Chapter 9, 14 straight days on persistence, because he wanted us to program our subconscious on how we attract the things that we wanted to attract. Okay. So that's business. Finances. I needed to have a consistent budget and really lived by that budget and not live above my means. And also put myself in a financial situation so that if there was an opportunity that came available, that I would be financially able to pursue it. Something as simple as Paul is going to be in Atlanta for 3 days doing a training event called Turning Point. And I wanted to be able to write the check and be there for 3 days to focus on developing myself and not worrying about taking money out of my budget that I could actually invest in my development. Okay. Environment. I have done so much purging in my life. Papers, people, emails, just things that I just don't need anymore for where I'm going. The analogy is that when people are mountain climbing, you only take what it is you need. You don't take other stuff that's going to hold you down. It's the same thing in us building where it is that we want to go. We have to take only what we need to be successful. And then recreation. Susan, you got to make time to play.
David, let's talk about that for a second, because you know what Nanette was saying about guilty? How do you give yourself permission to do what you know is good for you?
I am Susan, and I am woman, and I deserve the best in my life. And I choose today to do the things that make me happy.
Well, you know, this goes back to where I talked about how I struggle with my time block, my calendar, and sticking to my calendar, because I do have that stuff in my calendar, and I don't always stick to it. That's what I'm saying. I struggle with, you know, so
exactly.
health, like workouts.
Yeah.
I walk the dog at 6 a.m. and then I do my own personal exercise at 6:30. I get away from that.
Yeah. Hey, Susan, one of the other ways that you do that is you put people in your life that hold you accountable to making you better. Did you go walk today? Did you go have that dinner today? Did you go meet with that friend that you said you were going to meet with today? But you have to have people in your life that's also giving you permission to enjoy where it is you want to go.
And I think it's kind of, for me, it's taken me a long time. But I think for me, it is about loving yourself. And I know that if I don't take care of myself, I'm not going to be able to make the money that I need to make. Okay? I'm not going to live long enough to spend time with the grandkids.
Right. Susan, let me ask you a question. Forget about money for a second, all right? Forget about your responsibilities. Forget about priorities. I just want you to dream with me for a second, okay?
Sure.
Tell me some place you've always wanted to go that you've never been that requires a passport.
Scotland.
Can you make that happen in 18 months?
She can.
It depends on if I pay all my debt off first or not.
Your debt will not go with you when you die.
I love it.
That didn't help me, David. Before I pay off my debt or after I pay off my debt?
Just go.
How about this? Would you agree that you're going to need the energy and the mindset necessary to make the money to be able to pay off your debt?
Yes.
Okay. That's going to require a certain level of energy to be able to do it. And we need to recharge ourselves from time to time so when we throw everything that we've got into our work, we have the energy to do that. And I bet you a trip to Scotland would be one of the most refreshing experiences that you've ever had in your life.
I vowed for that. You know,
because then what happens, Susan, when you get on the plane coming back, you start thinking about, okay, what's the next trip?
Yeah, it's true.
You can't have both, Susan.
David, before we quit, I have a question for you.
Yes.
You are so amazing at being able to really, really listen to what we're saying. And even when you're like presenting and listening to everybody else, how are you doing that? Has that been something you've learned, how to listen that hard and retain it to be able to come back a couple minutes later? To me, it's very eagle-like.
Thank you. Two things. One, I'm a natural C. I'm an analytical person. So my mind is full of boxes. I think in boxes. So I will give you something, I'll close the box, and I'll open up the box to get more. That's literally what's happening in my mind. Okay. Number two, I would say that I had to be taught how to be a better listener. And then one of the things that was said to me that I really appreciated was the fact that you don't listen to respond. You listen to understand and comprehend.
Right.
Pregnant pauses are okay because it shows people like Susan, you are listening. Cool. And so part of listening is not only confirming, but affirming. Susan, I understand that you've been through a lot of things in your life, and there is a time and point where we let those things go. The analogy that me and my friends have been talking about is you're in a room with no doors carrying a bag that nobody told you to carry. That at any time you can put that bag down and walk out that room. It's your choice.
Wow.
And all of us have been there at some point in our lives where we're in a room with no doors carrying a bag that nobody told us to carry.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's a good analogy.
So when you say, how do you do that, Susan? You speak it into existence. I am Susan. I am woman. I deserve the best in my life. And I choose to move towards these things. And I expect people to come into my life to hold me accountable to those things, to help me move towards where it is that I want to be. If you have to write it down and read it every morning and every night, so be it. But the point is, we started things first when we totally did not believe that it was going to happen. And then one day, all of a sudden, it showed up. Okay? It is not about you being clear on where it is that you're going. You just have to have clarity on why you want to go there. Clarity is so much more important than understanding how you're going to get there. So I challenge you to sit down and say, I'm going to be in Scotland by X, and I'm going to do these things in my life by Y, and I'm going to set up my calendar in a way where it is important for me to say no. And I'm going to tell you guys something. I don't believe in coincidence, but you all need to buy this book and read chapter 2 on priorities. You need to go straight to that book because it talks about time management and giving you permission to say, hey, look, if I'm not healthy, all these other things don't matter. So I've got to find the things that help me find myself again, number one. And then number two, what are the things that are going to help me be healthy? And you'll be amazed how other things will fall into place. Go ahead.
So one last thing, I love everything that I do. I know that there are things I do I shouldn't be doing because it's not really accomplishing enough, but I enjoy everything. So it's kind of hard even to figure out on the long term which pieces I need to do to get to something that I don't really care as much about, but I probably need to do more than what I am actually doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It does.
On page 120, I'm skipping ahead, but I love this part. It's one of my favorite parts of this book. It says in the middle, I I still find each day too short for all the thoughts I want to think, for all the walks I want to take, for all the books I want to read, and all the friends I want to see. And when you have a strong sense of purpose, enjoy life, and possess an awareness of how brief life really is, the days seem too short. And that's why you have to manage yourself effectively. Everything you do in your career, your personal life, and your leadership depends on it. Everything that you do depends on it. Mm-hmm. So that's it.
So I think what the group is saying to you, Susan, is that the day has come to accept a different paradigm. And that is uncomfortable. And what's interesting about it is normally when you start getting uncomfortable is when the growth starts happening.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, you guys.
Our pleasure. Hey, I hope everybody got something good out of today.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Same bat time, same bat channel next week, 13, 14, and 15.
Okay.
Leadership Gold. All right.
All right. Hey, David, may I ask you something? This is Krista.
Yeah, absolutely.
I cannot get the download of all of the documents. I'm just getting parts of it. Yep. Is there a place where I can go and just download it all onto a Google Drive, or have you share it with me?
Nanette, if you want to go ahead and just send them the whole thing electronically, you can do that.
I can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, we can make that happen for you, Krista.
All right. Thank you.
Yep, my pleasure. All right.
Thanks. See you next week.
Yep,
bye-bye.
See you later. All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.